Hello and welcome to another top grades made easy video with poetry comparisons. The key thing is to understand the poet's purpose. Let's get started. Ozymandias I'm really excited about because it is a pre-1918 poem, and I'm only giving you pre-1918 poems to compare it with, and the obvious favourite is going to be My Last Duchess. So Ozymandias is written to show how the power of art transcends history. And that's all about the sculpture and the sculptor, and they represent the power of the artist. And similarly, Shelley believes he himself is an artist, and his poem Ozymandias is going to live on in the same way that the sculptor's art did. He's writing a contrast of political power, which he says is ephemeral, and the power of art, which is eternal. He's also writing to promote democracy. This is a criticism of tyrants and dictators, and in his own lifetime he has in mind particularly a ruler like Napoleon, who's only just been defeated a few years before. He's also writing it to promote his own poetic skill. It was in fact entered into a competition. That's the reason it was written. He had a competition only with his friend, but there you go. They both got theirs published, and his was the better poem. It survived. And you can see that he's trying to promote his own skill because he wants his own poet to survive as a work of art, unlike the political power of dictators. And then that also explores the awkward compromise between art and those in power, because the sculptor has had to ingratiate himself with Ozymandias in order to make the sculpture of him, but then has been quite subtle in making that sculpture a really true portrait of this corrupt ruler, Ramesses II or Ozymandias, and through that exposes the ruler's cruelty. And it's done through the power of his art. And then symbolically, of course, that portrait is what survives. That shattered visage still conveys the power of the artist. Okay, well, My Last Duchess is in a way all about art, and it's all about the power of the poet. So Browning is writing this as a new kind of poetry. He's writing it as a theatrical monologue, not something that had been particularly popular. So he's inventing or promoting a kind of new form of poetry, celebrating his own art and artistry as a poet. And that promotes his own poetic skill. He also wants to expose the corruption of the nobility, represented by the Duke. And it's also about the compromise between artists. Artists are named in this poem, they're invented artists, but Browning's point is rich men get great art created, but there's a great compromise in the artists themselves having to produce something that is, if you like, tarnished or corrupt. And we see that in the portrait of My Last Duchess, which is painted just before she's executed. And he needs the portrait, the Duke needs the portrait before he'll kill her. And that's his way of owning her. So in a way, the artist signs her death warrant, because as soon as the picture is completed, the Duke can have her executed. And then similarly, the statue of Neptune at the end is beautiful, of course, but also symbolises male patriarchal power in the form of Neptune, controlling the seahorse, which represents the female, and in this relationship that represents the Duke's wife, or the new wife that's coming from the Count. So lots of really good comparisons there. I'm really happy with it. Or I can go to London, which writes about the problems in society which are being caused by those in power. Well, we can easily see that represented in Ozymandias. Although Blake is criticising the church and the king and parliament, we don't get that. We just get a dictator in Ozymandias. So it's not really as full a comparison. I'm only going to compare it if I have to. My Last Duchess is going to be my go-to poem. And if you'd like to see some essays comparing poems, check out the video appearing on the left, and on the right, videos showing you how to use the FOSS method, which gets you the top grade every time.